you really think about it, this Fear Street trilogy is kind of like Back to the Future. Hey there, it's Kristen, and today we are talking about the final chapter of Netflix's Fear Street trilogy. That's right, Fear Street Part 3, 1666. In 1666, a colonial town is gripped by a witch hunt that has deadly consequences for centuries to come, while the teenagers in 1994 try to put an end to their town's curse before it's too late. Consider subscribing if you like my videos, and drop down in the comments and let me know your thoughts on the Fear Street trilogy. I also have some Fear Street interviews with the cast and crew that will be dropping very shortly. I'll leave a link here when they're up. Just like the last film, we kick off right where we left off, which is with Dina bringing together Sarah Fier's hand to her body. And when she touches the bones, she has a vision of what really happened back in 1666 with Sarah Fier, but Kiana Madeira, who was playing Dina, is now kind of standing in for Sarah Fier and seeing what happened through her eyes. And I think this was just the perfect ending to this trilogy. There were a lot of questions following 1994 and 1978, and everything is addressed here. And the truth comes out, which I found really fascinating. And not only that, but we also get to see a lot of the actors that we met in 1994 and 1978 return in different roles in 1666, which I thought really worked well with that idea of history repeating itself. And when you really think about it, this Fear Street trilogy is kind of like Back to the Future. It has that perfect blueprint or format of things repeating themselves over time throughout the generations. The whole Fear Street trilogy has been built around this idea that Sarah Fier is an evil witch from 1666 who cursed the town of Shadyside and caused all this chaos. But there's more here than meets the eye. And Dina and Sam's love story from 1994 is basically echoed in 1666 with Sarah Fier and Hannah Miller, with both of those same actors playing those roles as well. And even though in 1994 Dina and Sam have a little bit of a difficulty being together, it's way worse in 1666. At that same time, there are weird, evil things starting to brew up in this older Shadyside. And because of that, and just, you know, blatant homophobia, they decide that Sarah Fier must be the one causing this. There's a man named Solomon in this town, Solomon Good, direct descendant to Nick Good, who's actually played by the same actor who plays Nick Good, so again, going back to that Back to the Future reference of just this guy playing his own ancestor. And he seems like he's an ally for Sarah, but really, he's in love with her, and he's the one who has been doing witchcraft and sacrificing this original Shadyside to these evil forces so that he can be successful in life and have whatever he wants. So we get a lot of big realizations in this chapter. I mean, first of all, it's just terrible how the women really have no power here. If a man accuses you of being a witch, it doesn't matter if you're a witch or not. Everyone's just gonna agree with him. That was just really difficult to watch because it feels kind of claustrophobic, where these women just can't get out of this situation no matter what because nobody's gonna be rational about it. Another thing that sucked was just how Solomon Fier, you know, put the blame on Sarah because she didn't want to be with him. And again, everybody just agreed with him. He claims he doesn't want to hurt her, yet he's the one that cuts off her hand and throws her to the townspeople to be hung as a witch. This also makes sense now why in 1978 they found Sarah Fier's hand in that creepy cave area, because that's where her standoff with Solomon was. You find out that she was completely innocent. This was a young woman who was demonized for being gay, for rejecting a man, and they just completely turned it around on her and made her out to be the bad guy. I thought it was a really great twist because I really enjoy stories where you get to learn about how the evil villain is maybe not what you think, or stories where like you've created the monster. And in this story, you know, this town has this myth, this legendary story about Sarah Fier that's not even true, and we find out that in 1978 all that red moss that was around the campsite, that was really Sarah Fier staking out her claim to show that she was still there. One of my biggest criticisms of the film though is that it feels like once Sarah Fier was revealed to not actually be the evil witch everyone thought she was, she didn't really have much going on. Like, she didn't really get any sort of real revenge on the Goods. I guess what she really did was give Sam and Dina a window into what went on. But without them as a catalyst, Sarah Fier kind of wasn't really up to much. So what does that really mean? Obviously Solomon Good would have died decades ago, so how is this still affecting Shadyside? Well, the thing is, Solomon Good has passed on that witchcraft in the Book of Magic onto his ancestors, onto his children and their children and their children, and ultimately Nick Good. So Good is really evil. All these names written on those stones that turned into these possessed killers were really people who were sacrificed by the Goods to kill people in Shadyside and feed all of that chaos and evil to that devil blob so that the Good family could have success and continue this legacy that they've had. And Nick is continuing this as well to try to live up to that family legacy. And I think we see in 1978 that, you know, when he's younger, there might be some times where he's a little bit unsure if he wants to do this. He talks about how he purposely saved Ziggy. There's just little things that he said in that movie that make it kind of clear, when you think about it in another way, that he was the one behind this all along. I also really enjoyed that over the course of these 3 films, they really tackled real life issues and problems that people deal with, systemic oppression, racism, homophobia. I thought that they gave us a queer love story that we don't really get to see very often in horror, and the fact that they get a happy ending. The idea of an innocent woman being demonized, the pressures that people face in society and their family to live up to a certain legacy, but all through this lens of horror. And I thought that they really did a great job. By the end of this film, we do go back to 1994 and they save the day. They were able to stop this horror once and for all. Or did they? First of all, I love that Dina used the Fear Street books as like a makeshift shield. So I just love the R.L. Stine reference. And then of course, in classic R.L. Stine fashion, we end with a little bit of a twist, with a mysterious hand taking the magical book that was left behind. I think it leaves this film really open-ended. Like, maybe this is it, maybe there's more to come. Now the big question is, who is it that took this book? My first thought is maybe it's Mayor Good, Nick Good's brother. If you pay attention to the news report, he makes a statement that he didn't know what his brother was up to, so this could be a way to cover up what was going on and continue the Good legacy. Overall, 1994 was probably my least favorite. I really enjoyed 1978, and I think 1666 just wrapped up this story so well and gave us these twists and turns that I know I definitely wasn't expecting. I would watch more Fear Street movies for sure. If you guys like this one, you can check out more of my Fear Street videos right over here, and I'll catch you in the next one. See ya!